Red Hood and the Outlaws #6, written by Scott Lobdell and Joshua Williamson, art by Kenneth Rockfort. Left off last issue on, it genuinely doesn't matter, because this is a prequel issue. Goes back to before any of the stuff that we just saw. So we open with Red Hood. He's struggling to get out of a submarine with some dude with a mechanical jaw up on his legs, and we just see him shoot the guy in the face. He falls down on the ground, and then Jason escapes from this nuclear submarine just before it explodes. It's a whole big thing. And we get Jason's talking about, like, oh, here's... you guys should have thought twice before you went up against the Red Hood, and whatever. So the explosion from the nuke does actually, concuss him, knock him out. And we see this tiny little island that he wakes up on. He's confused. He's hooked up to a bunch of medical gear or something like that. And we see a hand inside the screen to fix it as he dozes back off. After a few more days of sleep, we see Starfire come to the screen. And she's like, you seem really familiar, but I can't place it. And she has a memory of her and what seems to be Jason in bed, but I feel like it's supposed to be Dick because of later parts of the issue. But she's like, you seem really familiar. And as she strokes his hair, he pulls out a gun and he's like, all right, who are you, where am I? Okay, I'm still woozy. Woo. And as he's holding the gun to her, it starts melting just because of the heat coming off her. So he passes out again. That night, he dreams about time he was on a rooftop with Dick Grayson as Nightwing, him as Robin. And basically Nightwing's just telling him, like, hey, you can't just fly off the handle. I know your instincts are good, but, like, patience is a virtue. And he's like, psh, you're not my real dad. And he just jumps off anyway. And Grayson's like, dude, this isn't a competition. Whatever. So we see again a few more days later. Jason finally gets up, starts walking naked through the woods, or jungles, I should say. And he comes across this giant alien ship that Stark fires at. And she introduces herself, says how she's Princess Coriander from Tamarand. And Jason immediately can't shut up. He's like, oh, hey, you're an alien. That's cool. There's big ship. How come nobody knows about it? Cloaking device? What's the power source? If it's self-adapting? And Starfire's like, all right, how about you shut up a little bit? And he's like, right, no, cool. I can do that. Yep. So she directs him to a closet, and inside we see is a costume that Nightwing was wearing in the flashback. And immediately Jason flashes back to him fighting against Batman and him having him to the ground, gun against his head, being like, you should have killed the Joker, or this is for letting the Joker kill me, or whatever my motivation is this scene. But then Nightwing comes in, kicks him in the back of the head, and Jason's like, I don't know who you are or how you got Nightwing's gear, but this is some sick game to you. And Corey's like, hey, I don't know how these clothes got here either. There's like this spark of a memory in my head, and it makes me feel good when I think about it, but I can't place it to anything. And she can't remember his name, but she just has this vague memory of being with somebody who she enjoyed being with. So I don't know if he puts on the clothes. I don't think he does. But he's wearing something. And basically he just dwells on all of the guns in this ship, and he starts mapping it out and getting a feel for it. And he's like, okay, I know that my teachings from the Allcast says I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm really filled with a lot of hate, and I really want to use these guns. But then we see him and Corey out on the beach in the moonlight, and he's like, all right, Corey, I got to talk to you. And she kisses him. And he's like, what the hell is that about? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. That's how we spread language and understand each other. Sorry, continue with your talk. And Jason's like, okay, yeah, sure, thanks. So they talk, and Jason explains everything about how he's Red Hood and Nightwing and Batman and blah, blah, blah. And then leads all the way up to now. And basically, he's like, are you mad at me? And she's like, why would I be mad at you? You've done literally nothing wrong here. And she basically goes over how the people of the planet are afraid of her because she's basically a walking nuclear bomb, or at least a nuclear source. So she tells him not to hold on to this rage inside of her and whatever. And they embrace, and he says, this isn't really a romantic thing, but it is a very, very strong friendship that I guess, what's really the difference between the two? And it's a few days later when finally Jason is looking online and he sees that a American is going to be put to death in Karak And of course, as we picked up in the first issue, it was Arsenal. And so Jason's like, all right, we got to go save him. Let's go for a road trip. And that's where we leave off. It's fine. It's okay. Like, I don't feel like we were at a particularly good stopping point in terms of, like, what was going on in Red Hood. Like, they were running from this town. Admittedly, he had just defeated one of the, whatever they were called, and he was saying what his mission was, that he was going to defeat them all. So I guess that's a stopping point where you could put in a prequel issue, but at the same point, I don't feel like this prequel issue was really necessary. I feel like this would have been a lot better if you had slotted it in as a, like, modern day issue that had flashbacks, if that makes sense. Of you are having him and Starfire talking in the present, and then we're flashing back to when they first met. Again, you can write it however you want. I'm not a professional writer, and that's just how Scott Lobdell and Joshua Williamson chose to do it. But I don't feel like it being a prequel issue just slotted in the middle of this book really feels right. You know, I think that it probably would have been better to keep the continuous story going, but that's just me. Art-wise, it's beautiful. It's Kenneth Rocafort. I can't complain in any regard. My only real complaint is that there isn't enough visual differentiation between Jason and Dick when they don't have their costumes on, but I mean, that's just constant. No artist really has a good grasp on that yet. So, yeah, no, overall, I give it like a 5.5, and it's mainly just due to the fact that it feels so out of place to just stop the story that we've been doing, like, completely. Like, there have been a couple little tangents that felt like we were stopping, but it was always for the purpose of the all cast being dead. This is just full stop. Okay, you need to know how Red Hood and Starfire met. And I'm like, do we though? Like, really? So 5.5. The art carries most of that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what to say, like, look forward to next issue for, because this doesn't leave any place it can really move forward into. It's just going to be a fresh start of wherever they happen to be at. So yeah, we'll see. But this one is a little bit for me.